Hey Tom, how you doing today?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've just finished my morning training. Uh, and
hmm
training for me is I'm a swimmer, British para swimmer. So it's a funny one actually. To be fair, is the word para because I think people look at me and think, "What's wrong with me?" straight away. And I've been on the British para swimming team for nearly a decade now. When I think about it, it's mental. Let's start from the start. So my story kind of really began in the early days of school, and throughout my childhood, I really struggled throughout school, and as a kid, I was obviously very cautious and conscious that I was very behind from all the other children in the class, and whilst that was happening, I did a number of different sports, and sports were the only thing what made me happy as a kid, and and I've and as a kid till I am now, I've always been 100 miles an hour. I cannot sit down for a long time at all. Really, you're lucky you got me sat down for an hour doing this. Uh, so uh, so my parents have always been really supportive, and they've got me doing loads of different sports. And the one sport that I fell in love with was swimming. And the reason why I fell in love with swimming at such a young age is I felt like I was in my own bubble, like all the time. Like I didn't need to speak to people. People didn't need to speak to me. I could just put my head down in the water and let my imagination just take over. And I think for me that was like the most magical thing as like growing up. And you know, being a kid who struggles reading and writing, my creative side is just like unbelievable. Like my brain just thinks at 100 miles an hour. So to have that opportunity to, swim before school and after school 4 hours a day and being in my own world just were like it's heaven. And like this morning, for example, like I came into training quite tired and my coach was like, "Your head's not there, is it, this morning?" I said, "No, not really." He's like, "Well, I'll give you a full session to just switch off." And it just brings me back to my childhood days where, like, when I was struggling, I could just go somewhere safe and like cuddle the water almost, and the water almost become my friend. So that become my love when I was younger, and I carried it on throughout school. And as I was getting older as well, I was falling further and further behind. And school was, yeah, I could be here all day talking about school, but school for me was horrendous. I absolutely hated it. I think the reason were is there were two different experiences of school for me. You had primary school and you had high school. I didn't do any further education from high school. So primary school, I always knew that I was special in a way because I was very much behind. And, uh, and at that point, I was still swimming and loving what I was doing. But I was always a kid who was out the classroom with extra support through primary school, and I always felt like I was always separated from all the other kids. So from like a young age, I always felt like I struggled to build that friends relationship as well because I spent half the time with just a member of a staff who's like 40 and years old, and just I spend all day with her just trying to catch up and thinking, why am I not like all the other kids? And it really kind of scarred me, did that, in primary school. And like things, perfect examples of it were like all the kids are reading like Harry Potter books and big bloody pages, what about that thick books, and I would walk into reception still getting Biff and Chip in my final years of primary school. And like going through them experiences absolutely killed me.
hmm
And and so then I joined high school and I thought, new chapter. No one from my primary school really knows me because there's about 3 or 4 of them going to my high school, and that's it. It's fresh start. And as soon as I went there, I was in the bottom set, and it was like it started all over again, where there's a number of pupils in a class, and they're all struggling. There's extra support because I wanted to learn. I didn't want to be that special kid, and I just wanted to be normal in a way. And I don't know what normal is to this day, but I'm happy who I am now. But at school, I couldn't accept that this system, and the only friendship group I had were at swimming because they actually didn't know anything about me struggling at school, and I think that was the thing what I loved the most. They knew I could just swim, and there was nothing wrong with me. And everything what I do now with parasport defeats everything what I did as a kid. But I think in the way I've accepted who I am,
Yeah.
and I think that's my biggest story, in a way, is at school I wanted to separate myself to being with the special kids or in the bottom set, or being special myself. I just wanted to have a normal friendship group, go to school, learn like everyone else, and not struggle. And I just really
Yeah.
hard, and so I was getting faster with my swimming and getting to like a regional and national level. And at the age of like 14, nearly turning on 15, I got an opportunity to to go for the Paralympics, and not go to the Paralympics, but be part of a para community. And it was my coach what actually, my swimming coach, what actually put me forward at the time, because he knew that I struggled at school, and he knew it when we were doing sets. I would be like asking a lot more questions than the other kids, if that made sense. But none of the other kids kind of picked that up. He knew he might be a bit slow, if that makes sense. And so he kind of put me forward, and it was a real big decision at 15 to think, I'm stamping this mark on me that I'm para, if that makes sense. When in my eyes to this day, I'm not disabled at all. I just can't read or write, and the biggest things what saved me as an adult is having an iPhone, because I can talk to it. It writes my messages, and so now, from being at school, I don't see myself having an impairment at all, because technology does everything for me. And that's the one thing what I struggled with at school, was just reading and writing. And so if you said to give me a
Mm.
piece of paper and a pen and do something, I'll be screwed now. But having technology has like saved my life completely, just because it's made everything so much easier. And so
Mm-hmm.
so at 15, I kind of made that decision, and I thought of two things really. I said to like my family, I said, look, I get to travel the world and get paid for it. I get to do something I love. In realistic terms, am I going to make it to the Olympics? Am I going to make it to British champs or a Commonwealth Games or a Europeans? Probably not. This is an opportunity for a kid who struggled all the way through school, has no GCSEs when he leaves school, and
Mm-hmm.
not sure what his future looks like. Or there's this. It's kind of like I had that in one hand, and I had this opportunity of getting paid, traveling the world, doing something what I love, being in that bubble every day. What would I rather do? And so it was the biggest decision of my life, because it was like I'm putting a stamp on my name of being disabled, and that's all I've ever tried
Yeah.
to fight during school, if that made sense, being that special kid. And to be fair, like mentally, it's killed me over the years, because like you know perfect examples growing up through them later teens, women get introduced, and they find out that you're a swimmer, and the first thing they do, like normal, is they Google you, and then you have that awkward conversation why you're disabled, and I'm like, I'm not disabled, I just can't read or write. I have this superpower in a different area, and just because I can't read or write,
Mm-hmm.
it used to really frustrate me growing up, because like I were getting that bit older, and these conversations always come up, why I'm in the Paralympics, why I'm a para. I didn't think that
Yeah.
were a thing, and I never thought it were a thing. Like, and it weren't something I was looking for. My family are
Yeah.
property developers, and so that's what my granddad did. That's what my dad does, and that's what I'm gonna do. I kind of said, look, I want to
Mm-hmm.
do my dream, to my dad, and he's like, 100%. He said, you can come to the business whenever. At this point in time, in like early 20s, my dad's just always been, just enjoy your life, and just take every opportunity what comes your way. You can join me at any point. So I've always been lucky in that respect. Uh, but I think I've just really struggled growing up, with being a para athlete, and being associated with something, and I wondered why.
Yeah.
Why am I ashamed? And it took me ages mentally. and now I actually don't give two fucks what people think, because I really don't care, and because I'm proud of who I am, and but as a young teenager, all these little barriers what used to come up with why you're disabled, or if you're wanting to try and get sponsorship, you're having to always tell them why, and then they just don't quite understand it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really used to get upset about all the time, uh, and it did mentally like drain me and frustrate me, but like, I think it made me a lot stronger. And I'm currently writing a book about it all at the minute, which is really exciting. So like the book is kind of like all invisible impairments type of thing, and just about my story, and just went on in 2014, to just go off a little bit off topic, but it's about disabilities. My dad had a brain tumor, so like, you know, he's like my superhero, and and he had a brain tumor, and he lost his vision, and getting fucking upset now. uh, so he lost his vision, and his eyes are fucked, quite frankly. But like, he's so successful, and he's managed to carry on doing what he loves, which is building. And I don't know how he carries on doing what he's doing there, but his eyes are just like absolutely. He cannot see hardly, really. He has no peripheral vision. Like, he can see further than me and my mum, but like, he can't see the floor. If you went to shake his hand, he can't see you, and stuff. So that was like a big thing what impacted us as a family. And so technically, Dad then become disabled. Then my mind kind of shifted. Then
Yeah.
he's like the most wisest man. He honestly, he's my hero. And so seeing him go through not being able to see, and then I'm always worried, thinking, will he be able to see when I have kids one day, or if I ever will walk down in the aisle? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to deteriorate, and there's still an unknown on that. And so there's always a massive worry on my dad's side, like, but yeah, this disability word, he was affected that I'm a para athlete. I do what I do, but at the end of the day, I get to do what I love, and that's what holds me to my sport, and holds me to the para sport is that, and the community is so amazing. To be fair, like, with all the other athletes who we all have, like yourself, have similar experiences, and that same mindset in a way, and I think that's what I love, is I can share my experiences from school, and this impairment I have, what I struggle with, and someone will have a very similar story, but in a different area, and it's so nice just to relate with other people. And as I've got older, I think, because I got scarred at school with being that special child, I've tried to create an image what makes me look normal, which is, people shouldn't have to do that, but like, I created an image where like I look after my body, my skin, my teeth. Like, I wanted to look like a normal person. So if I were ever to walk down the street, no one could ever know that anything was up with me, in a way that I can't read. And I was so conscious of that, of like leaving school, like someone could see right through me. And I think that's like my biggest insecurity, and what is people seeing through me to who I actually am, and when actually, you know, I actually don't care now. Whereas I used to really care, because I've just accepted that I just struggle in an area, and I think the things what get me through life so much is a bit like social media, but and these stats are going to go in my book and stuff. But like 60% of self-made billionaires are all dyslexic, like myself, and I think, like, when I hear stuff like that, it just thinks, wow, why is that? Why are them the people what are 60% of all millionaires or billionaires, like, dyslexic like myself? And I think, oh wow, and I know why. It's because we think different to everyone else, and we think outside the box, and I always, the funniest thing is, I come to my dad every single week with a brand new idea, And when I mentioned to you the other day, like trying to clamp me down for this call is so hard because I'm 100 miles an hour because I have I have about I can't even tell you, but I have 100 projects going, just like all time, and I understand why that is
Yeah.
so true because not anyone else could think 100 miles an hour like I can or do 100 miles an hour because they'll just get tired. So yeah, so my story is kind of like a lot of it is how school kind of scarred me and shaped me up to who I am today, and then alongside that is how swimming kind of educated me in this disability world and made me accept who I am. And I think that's the biggest message I kind of got out of parasport is, at first it was a big scary thing being labelled something, but I think my biggest goal in life now is to try and get rid of that label for people because I still think people are scared about that label, and I think people shouldn't be labelled in a way at
Yeah.
all. Like like yourself, who's had an accident. You're not disabled. You've just had an accident in life, and you've struggled with like the impairment of your legs up from that accident, but you've recovered and you've gained another superpower in another area. If you wouldn't have gone through that accident, we wouldn't be talking now. Everything leads to something,
Yeah.
and it's been a real tricky road, like family and school and swimming and stuff. But I'm actually planned out well for me in the end. But at school, I
Mm.
just didn't have that vision, if that made sense, because I was just relating to all the kids' previous years in my class, and I just think it's so easy at school to be sucked up in that system, and then you struggle outside of life, and it's always been my worry throughout my swimming from this whole thing. And in a way, yes, it is because I want to carry on the family tradition and legacy, but I want to have my own spin on things now. Whereas if I didn't do this swimming, I that kid on site
Yeah.
just working his way up. Whereas I've got now so many goals and things I want to achieve, and I just want to. My biggest thing is I love going into schools and teaching kids that keep an open mind. Like, don't let the school system drag you into where they want. You take yourself where you want to go. And
Because it's a completely different thing. Kids can get told a variety of different things in schools, but you're basically saying for people to follow their
yeah,
dreams
that's basically
regardless.
what I'm trying to say because I'm that kid who followed his dream of swimming, and it didn't. Obviously, I had a different dream in swimming in terms of like going to the Olympics, and I never thought about the Paralympics,
Yeah.
and that's what kind of changed it all for me in a way. And I still pursued what I loved, which is swimming, and it's got to where I am today. But if that teacher actually got me to stop, it's like what would I be doing? Because I am
Yeah.
that kid who left school with no GCSEs or anything. So it is mental, to be
Yeah.
fair, when you look back at it all. So yeah,
And I think that's the thing is not a lot of kids or even people when they're told something maybe to stop doing something, a lot of people would stop. They would think, well, this person's right, so I am going to stop. And that's okay if some people do stop. But what kind of advice would you say to people, especially kids that might be going through a similar situation?
you got to trust your gut and trust your heart. If you love doing what you're doing, don't let anyone else tell
Yeah.
you otherwise. Then just because they don't like it doesn't mean you have to like it or you do like it. Follow what you enjoy doing, and that's kind of just what I did. And school is someone people telling me, "Come on, Tom, you can read this," and I'm there in the class like I cannot read it. I don't know why I cannot read it, and teachers shouting at me saying, "Come on, Tom, you can read it. Stand up in front of the class, read the," and I'm like, I can't read it. Or it's like, "Come on, Tom, this is how you spell a certain word," and like they're breaking it down, being right condescending, and I'm like, I can't spell it. Like there's something there. What's stopping me? I cannot do it, and because throughout school, I kind of got that where they told me to stop doing things and putting me on that
Yeah.
spot. It has really like scarred me in terms of I don't want anybody telling me what to do anymore, if that makes sense, because that's all I got throughout school. And and so yeah, it's been a that has been a really challenging thing, and and this is where like my parents have been
Hmm.
so supportive, but at the same time, it's been a real difficult one at home as well, because like my dad is, you know, he's my hero, but my mum's also my hero. They're the most supportive parents, and I think what the saddest thing is my parents are they're so loving. It's too much, if that makes sense. They're so proud of where I am today, and I think a lot of it is because they're gonna be really dad now, but like I
Yeah.
used to have a brother, and he passed away, and basically he got hit by a car, and it were a hit and run at the age of 14, and so that traumatized my parents a hell of a lot, and so I am like their only golden egg. Does that make sense? And so like they
Hmm.
wrap me in cotton wool.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot, and it is so nice. But as that kid who's been struggling throughout school and people telling him what to do, like I'm not saying they tell me what to do, but there's times where we have that conflict because I hate getting told what to do because I've got this scar, and it's been, as a family, we've just been through so much shit, and then obviously all this thing with school, and then
Mm.
they're just so proud of who I am being part of swimming and being part of this para world, but at the same time, for most of years, I haven't accepted that. Does that make sense? So it's just been such a difficult up and down journey because like we've just had so much shit at home, but then at the same time, I'm trying
Yeah.
to accept who I am being part of this para world, which at the same time I think I'm not. And it's just been like, it's just been draining. And I think it's been one hell of a bloody roller coaster. And I can say that I'd much rather have gone down this route than the route of listening to that teacher. But yeah, it's made me who I am today for sure. And for the only advice I can give to kids, just literally follow the dream. If that dream is the slightest thing possible, or like the littlest things, just do it. Like what's holding you back? Like, and so yeah, that's kind of where my story is briefly.
So from the journey and your story, how do you think that, mentally you've been able to keep going?
The best example how I work is I'm like a battery, yeah, and it gets charged up at night, and then during the day I'm 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But as the day goes on with me, I get tireder. So in the morning, I'm at my prime. I'm fucking 100 miles an hour from 5 o'clock till midday, and
Hmm.
then as the afternoon goes, I slowly start dying because that battery, my brain's work that fast because it's got to my brain work in general, and then to keep up with all this writing, working 10 times
Yeah.
harder. So it comes to the end of the day and I'm absolutely fucked more or less, and I not gonna lie, is I'm an early night kind of person because I need my sleep. If I don't have my sleep, that battery isn't full for the next day, if that makes sense. And then I'm drifting on half battery from 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it's going to empty type of thing. So that's the best way of describing me, and how I've coped with getting up in the morning is just having that one goal of you know, getting that gold medal, what I've always wanted, and regardless if it's Olympic medal or a Paralympic medal, I've just wanted to always get to the top of everything I do, and that's always been my thing. Is if I do
Mhm.
something, it has to be right, and it has to be the best. I have to have the best of everything. So if I'm in swimming, I have to get the best medals. Does that make sense? And that's just how my brain kind of
Yeah,
functions.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what's really helped me get up. But mentally, it has been so tiring and hard, and then that factor of mental health comes in. Like there's I personally think there's two best options to deal with it. Number one is talking to somebody about all your problems, and getting it out there, and sometimes it feels so much better when someone else has just listened to you, and it's nicer if someone can even relate to a similar situation. And number two is,
Mm.
as hard as it sounds, but like my obviously losing like a brother, or like for my mum and that, it they're never gonna come back. You know what I mean? That's it. And so you either dwell on it or you move forward. And it's the same with that. You either keep thinking about it or you move forward. It's never gonna go. You know what I mean? It's never gonna come back. And it's all about just moving forward. And I think that's how I see it is, for him to go, he's never coming back, as sad as that sounds. And it's the same with mental health, is if you're in that dark place, you need to try and get out that place and never try and get back there. But it is such a tricky one. And there'll be so many people what might listen to this and have a completely different opinion. But I just personally feel like, you just got to keep moving forward.
People might think this very differently, but this is your opinion, and this makes you
Yeah.
who you are. And there's no point stopping it. People shouldn't tell you right or wrong, because this is who you are. And people may agree, people may disagree, but I think it doesn't matter.
That's why, in a way, I am writing a book, and I want to say my side to things like that, because I've never actually come out and talk about it a lot,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And I've never really been one to vocal how I feel about situations, because to be honest, I don't, not that I don't like conflict. I just don't want to be involved in stuff like that. I've got other things to worry about. But at the same time, I kind of think I want to help people as well, like yourself,
Yeah.
doing this program. Like I want to help these people. So I kind of, after Tokyo, I kind of said I want to do something where I can do some good. And there's no point of me doing all this swimming and representing my country and not giving
Yeah.
something back to the community as well. And I'm so for giving back to the community. Like, if I'm not volunteering at the local scouts group, I'm volunteering at the local radio. And so, like, I love bits and bobs to, like, give back to my community, because they're the ones what have, sat down and watched me on TV and supported me and bits and bobs. And I'm all for that. And I think as well, to be fair, like with mental health, trying to volunteer for something could massively help with mental health. If someone is struggling, trying to get into a new group and have a new purpose and doing good makes you feel so much better. Like, if you're going into school, and if you go into one school and you help one kid, I walk away absolutely buzzing. It's like a work purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I've helped that one kid. If my message has
Yeah.
gone through to him, and he's then achieved his dream, then I think, fucking hell, that were worth it. And so, just I do love volunteering, not gonna lie. So yeah, I think that really does help if people are struggling to be part of something, because not 9 times out of 10, but sometimes when you're struggling in that place, you forget where you are and being part of something. You might have lost someone, you might have been through a trauma, you might have been through whatever reason, but sometimes it's like you're not part of something. So being part of maybe that local group or that local thingy, like, it helped massively for sure.
No, I agree with you. And the thing is this is why we're here today, and this is why you're here. You said with your volunteering, if you say one thing to somebody, that changes their life and follows their dreams. But for people that listen to this, you don't know, and I'd like to think that there will be someone out there that your story changes that person's life and they follow their dreams. It's one of those things. Even if you're walking along the street and you give somebody a smile, that smile can change that person's day. I think what's amazing as well, in a way, is that you said you went from being a kid who struggled in school for a variety of different reasons, and you've become a whole person, if that makes sense. You've become not somebody that anyone else told you to be, or somebody that anybody else wanted you to be. You've become exactly who you've wanted you to be. And you're only, in your 20s. So to be able to do that still so young, it just shows, it just shows that you people are capable to become who they want and to follow their dreams. And, that is what life can be. If you have a dream and you want to do it and you want to follow it, you can become that person and chase it.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100% agree. Yeah, you put that in good context with.
This has been perfect. So
Oh,
yeah,
no, thank
thank
you
you.
for listening.